Okay, is everybody ready for the best trucking show in the land? That's right. Try the alternative. Yeah. Uh-huh. Here we go. We got zero people in the house. Oh no, I just lied. Somebody popped in there. Oh, I can't see them. Uh so we got the best trucking show in the land and try the alternative and broker problems. That's that's where I'm that's what I'm dealing with out here. I'm in North Carolina land. Uh, Looked for a load. Got the insurance on the driver. Figured that out. Got paperwork done. Feeling great, except for I feel poor. Um, the driver's ready to get in the seat, start moving around. I'm ready for them to. Found this load. I was going to do a cheap load just to get me back through Indianapolis so I can get his butt in the seat, get him some good, a little bit of that good training going on. And the broker, the broker tells me, yep, we got this load. It's like 23 miles away from where I'm sitting. Hey, Fate Trucking, how's it going, bro? I just gave you some good yogurt, a couple good comments. Try the alternative with your yogurt or ice cream poop emoji. I remembered that. Actually, I'm looking at it on the phone right here. Uh huh. So you brought it up. You started it. You were first. So yeah, I just getting this whole thing, trying to get this whole thing started, get that driver in the seat, all that, and first things first, find this load 23 miles away from where I'm at, going right across through Indianapolis so I can pick up the driver. The rate wasn't really what I wanted it to be, but that was not the whole point of the thing. So call them up. They said, "Yeah, we got this load. Give me your phone number and I'll call you back." And this broker always does this. I think they have to verify the load. I think that's what they do. So they said they're going to call me back. It's around lunchtime. I'm hanging out. And then about an hour later, I call them back. I'm like, what's going on? Talk to this other broker, and they say, okay, well, it's they had, they already booked it. So I'm like, okay. So I look for other loads, look for other loads, look for other loads. I'm trying to remember which one. This is a different broker. I know it is. Oh, yeah. Check the load boards, everything. I see this load. It's good enough. It's just one of those that, is practically is what I call cheap freight for the most part. And but it's still getting me where I want to go. So I call them up and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, it says there's a mistake here and this and that and whatever." So that loads junk. After I was like ninth in line on the automated system. So I'm guessing that these brokers or the broker agents or whatever they all got laid off or something. They all got I don't know. I don't know what's going on, or they're having some major problems that they with their systems or something. I'm not exactly sure, but something's going on. I find them on the load board and I call them, and I'm sitting there for like half an hour on the phone. It's just completely ridiculous, right? So I'm like, all right, I basically burnt all that time, and here I am searching, searching, searching. I find this other one. I'm like, okay, this is a new broker that I set up with. Uh, they really have a lot of loads out west and everything else. And that was like one of the things that I ran into when I would run out west occasionally. When I got there, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything anywhere. Well, this last time I ran out to a week or so ago, I ran out to Idaho. I was just like, I'm going to give this one a try. And I sign up with this, and they send me a list of their loads and everything. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of like a different area of the country where I see loads. So, and it's, I couldn't find them anywhere else. So I was like, I've made a good pick. Uh, got set up with them. So I called them the very first one that I actually, hey, Will Burner, what's up? Fate, I don't know if he jumped in and out or if he's still hanging around, but he definitely he definitely was here for a moment. Um, so I'm just talking about the broker issues that I'm experiencing today, just kind of completely out of the ordinary. Three different loads that I worked on, they said they had, and then they canceled for some reason. I've not ever had that happen to me where the broker has told me they have the loads and they've not gotten back with me or not gotten back with me with a rate con, you know. Um, so it really confused me today. So this last broker that I, signed up with, this is was the first load. They said they had the load, this and that and whatever, and it happens to be a blind shipment, and they send me, the rate con and everything, and then they had to call me and say that they had to cancel it on me. This one actually sent me the rate con and everything. Uh, so I guess they had a production issue somewhere along the lines. So it's just really, really crazy. Something like that happened to me today. So I don't know if the brokers are having problems, the manufacturers are having problems. I just don't know if people are trying to recover from the holidays. I really don't know. So that's what's going on as far as I can tell. But yeah, it confused me today. So I'm hanging out here and I'm saying, yeah, yay, raw for myself, trying to get the driver in the truck. They got there. Uh, they consented to the drug consortium thing. Uh, they they have at least their paper license, that's good for 30 days or whatever, and to give time for their plastic license to show up. Uh, so yeah, that's what's going on with me. That's just, it confused me today. Broker problems. I don't know what they're experiencing. If they are doing their little planning, behind the scenes, like, hey, let's do this and push these rates beyond ridiculous, based on everybody's fears versus actual numbers. Because let's just say Freight Waves as a source, it's like 17 to 1. There are like 17 rejections to, I'm trying to remember what they call it, rejection, load rejections. So there's still, for every 17 load, or every, I forget what it is. I need to work on my terminology, and uh, that particular segment's the carrier segment or carrier update. So I believe that there's some financial engineering going on behind the scenes, and they're not representing the actual market, and they're trying to take away from one market to support another. And I literally I have a sense that that's a plan. Um, it's a plan for survival for them, but it's kind of the same thing that that we as truckers continue, or motor carriers or whatever, continue to hear. Well, if you can't make it, you need to go out of business. If you have a cash truck, uh, and no maintenance, and no tires and no fuel, uh, you're supposed to take this load for less than it costs to operate. It's like someone somewhere is missing those actual points, because they're either missing it because they lack the ability, forethought, or human capital to come to the realization that there are costs that nobody can operate under. This is not a loss leader, like you like a retailer does a loss leader, where they'll stick out something and lose $1 to attract someone to spend 300. And so that's how they recover their money on those loss leaders. And that's just something that we all are tempted by. We see something that, hey, that's a great deal. We go in and then we buy candy or whatever, or a couch, or sofa, whatever, whatever it is. But that's just it. So that's what I'm that's what I'm a little concerned about. This is not retail. This is industry. This is not. This is a supply chain. There aren't loss leaders in supply chain. Somebody somewhere has gotten the idea that maybe they're selling that concept so that they can, gather all that extra that nobody sees, slide it under the table, out from underneath the table, or whatever. So I really struggle at this point with some of the things that I believe that have a somewhat higher probability of actually occurring, uh, when the whole purpose is to bring in every penny. It's like telling you that this load is over here. Like, some brokers use this tactic. They post it, you know, well, this load originates in California and ends in New York. And then you call them and they're like, oh, that load's gone, but we got this other one that starts in Colorado and ends in Missouri. Or they say, oh, yeah, well, we put it, uh, we listed that so we could get enough people to call us about California, but it's actually in Montana. It's like, oh, so you're saying you posted that the rate based on a different area, or a different mileage calculation. So you're trying to pretext someone into, or coerce, or what is it called when you just misrepresent completely the facts. Um, you can't negotiate a price when you come to the table if all the numbers and all the are wrong. They say, okay, well, this is 2 plus 2. You go to the table and they're like, haha, it's actually point 0.1 plus negative point 0.2. It's like there's no there's no way to rationally be able to be prepared to know ahead of time. Like, they already know, they're posting it, so they know where it's at. That's their advantage, that's their competitive advantage. But when they use those tactics, that's those are not those are pushing the boundaries. I don't know, they may be pushing the boundaries of ethics, of being ethical. That's quite a large big statement, because there's a moral and an ethic in there. So if you're violating generally the truthfulness going in, is it really going to be ethical if someone comes in thinking they're going to drive 500 miles and it's going to be 1,500? I mean, that's a little out of, that's somewhat of exaggerations, but I don't know how much those exaggerations really are. And playing these mind tricks and whatever, and games. There's a game theory when that's just all they do is just all day, every day, just you know, I don't know if it's falsifying information, providing incorrect information. It's a rough it's a rough set of circumstances. I'm not real clear on how to address it appropriately, or through what mechanism to uh, share the information with, because it's if there's now a consumer protection agency, I believe that's what it is, at the federal level that have set some standards, reporting standards, like you get a credit card and they start charging you interest the same day at like 75% interest. People are saying that that's just morally and ethically incorrect. And that's why this organization had to be started, because people are, I don't know if you call it marketing and advertising one thing as it represents something else, but I mean, even in marketing and advertising and journalism, all those things are supposed to have an underlying set of, constraints to operate within, so that they're not violating uh, their privilege, if you will. I mean, I don't know that there's anything more than their privilege. If someone in a position, it's an abuse of power. It's There's an authority there. It's an abuse of power if they have the power to begin with, and then they use it to harm. And this is where I'm struggling, because if you can't deal with someone because they're they lack the ability to have some sort of understanding of when not to be exploitative or abuse the power or abuse the power or manipulate. I'm just, there are a lot of words there, and as those words or that vocabulary uh, gets narrower, uh, it may be it may begin to identify what is occurring if it's inappropriate. And so this game theory, it's difficult to know there if there is a right and wrong. uh, that that should probably be something that should be addressed to begin with. Is there a right and wrong? And if that is something that needs to be adhered to, is a right or a wrong, then those limits or boundaries apparently, at a minimum, are being tested when it comes to business in general. I don't know. You know, Fun topic for later, right? I'm just worried about the three brokers that said they had loads and then didn't have them, and you know, what, when somebody tells you that they have something and they don't have them, things happen, but you know, it really created an issue with me today because I thought I'd be going down the road heading toward picking up the new driver, and you know even at generally at a discount, just so that I could provide myself with getting the driver moving. So that's where I'm struggling, because there are a lot there are many sources of data. The data still continues to be contradictory to what the market is doing, and I the numbers should be the base in that scenario. Uh, Generally speaking, there are a lot of controls in place when these surveys or this data is collected, and the statistics are rigorous, and they do actually they do a lot of good things to assist everyone with. But then when you're getting when the data says that nickel's a nickel because it's worth 5 cents, and somebody's saying, well, I have a nickel, but I'm only giving you a penny. I mean, there's a disconnect there, and I'm trying to understand why people think that they're financial engineering and all this stuff, and they're not the ones actually doing the synthetic stocks and hedging the oil prices against the trucking company so that you can keep a nice stable return when one beta goes this way and the other beta goes that way. I mean, these are some of the things that I was exposed to in the graduate level stuff. And it's not about being aggressive and greedy and taking over everything. It's about staying safe, stable, safe, and if you're going to be risky, you know ahead of time that you're going to take a risk, but you know that that risk is not too far of a too big of a chunk of where you started. So it's like people maybe people are getting confused. I don't know, but it seems like there's a little bit of ignorance. I don't know, uh, cavalier attitude toward those investing uh, much higher amounts of capital, and and they should be compensated for the risk they're taking because that's a risk. Now, if you wanted to say, okay, well, if you have if you're risking more capital, then you should have been more stable to start with. Well, if your barrier to entry, and I'm talking about the broker, is lower than the carrier, the higher the barrier of entry, that's the one that gets the most return. And that's just generally how the market and everything else works. If you are taking, if you have achieved a certain level to be able to get into the next stage, there's more risk there. There's more investment there. So the more investment should, even if the return is lower, the investment still should be higher. The return should still be higher, maybe not in percentage, but in total, than, let's say, the broker with a lower barrier of entry, because that's generally capitalism. I mean, I don't know, might be able to argue that the meekest or the poor or whatever should get a higher percentage, but that's a social construct. That's not that's something we choose to do, um, to assist others, because it we should want to give a hand up instead of a handout. And I think that's where I'm going with everything. Yeah, hot seat. I see you jumped in here. The basic elements of success are stability and sustainability. Yeah, those are really good. Those are really good concepts and things to strive for. Um, that's all. That a lot of that's what I'm trying to be there and not be too risky with things. I mean, I'm not. I've been risky before, but I'm just. I've had so many experiences that you know, uh, essentially, drowning, and then somebody comes in and instead of hand up and at least put the nose above water, they come and they put their foot right on your head and push you further down. That, and these are experiences that generally speaking I've had. So I mean, what's all this talk and rhetoric and everything else, it's supposedly consistent with how we are supposed to, act as human beings toward each other. And I just, I'm confused a few times here and there. I'm sure everyone's had their own little this or that, but it's as if there's an element out there that really doesn't subscribe to the same channels or wavelengths that we all are supposed to be striving towards or participating in. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, um, I just wanted to jump in. There were basically three separate brokers that I called and tried to get a load, and each one of them told me that they had the load, and come to find out they didn't. So one, sat me for an hour, uh, and then, oh well, we didn't have the load. Sorry. The other one posted they have the load. They had it posted like two or three of them. I call and I sit on hold for every bit of a half an hour. I was like number 9 or 10 in this queue, and I don't know if all the brokers just laid off everybody and nobody's there, anymore. So I'm like, okay. So I get there, and then they don't have the load. They're like, oh well, there's something wrong with the load. Okay, so that's number two. Then number three, I actually get a rate con and everything sent to me. And they're like, oh, sorry, we had to call you and cancel. I'm like, all right. Um, Now I have to look to see, am I going to pressure them on the very first load to give me a Tonu because they sent the rate con to me? I mean, how much more of a commitment? I mean, they sent the rate con to me, so I don't know. It's confusing me because uh, we're supposed to have some level of professionalism or sophistication to be even allowed to, you know, uh, conduct these transactions, if you will. I just don't know if people don't have it anymore. They don't. If they just don't have either they don't have the ability, don't have the authority to make the decisions, uh, or if they're just completely oblivious to what's going on. I mean, when you when you don't know the value of a transaction or a relationship or whatever, then what else is there? You know. So yeah, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just end it a little early here. I don't know if anybody else is going live, and I don't know if I'm stomping on anybody else or if I'm waffle stomping anybody or whatever. Some of those funny sayings I've heard some of the other YouTubers use and say. But I'm going to get off here. But uh, I really do like to copy people. But this time I'm gonna copy someone uh, that might like it. So you know what it is. Try the alternative. Peace out. Whatever. Click like, subscribe. Click, 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 click. Like, subscribe, comment, do it all. But you can be my little bat or my little batch. That's what I'm calling you now. I mean, hey, we all got to have some little quirky little thing, right? All right. Well, that's the theme. Try the alternative. Yep. Have a good night.